The sudden collapse of Reggie Lewis. July 27, 1993, Waltham, Massachusetts. The gym inside Brandeis University was quiet that Tuesday morning. Only a few people were inside, the soft sound of basketballs echoing across the hardwood floor. It was supposed to be a light off-season workout. Nothing intense, nothing dangerous. Reggie Lewis, a 27-year-old professional basketball player and captain of the Boston Celtics, arrived wearing a simple gray t-shirt and green shorts. He had been advised to take things slowly after a previous health scare during the season. Just easy cardio, his trainer had reminded him. Reggie agreed. At 9:30 a.m., he began jogging around the court. Trainers watched closely. At first, everything looked normal. His breathing was steady. His strides were smooth. Teammates chatted quietly on the sidelines. There were no warning signs in the air. About 15 minutes later, Reggie slowed down and leaned forward, resting his hands on his knees. A trainer asked if he was okay. Reggie nodded and said, "I'm fine." He took a few more steps toward the center of the court. Then, suddenly, his body gave out. He collapsed to the floor without impact from anyone else. Trainers rushed to his side and immediately began emergency medical care. Someone called 911. Staff members cleared the room, and the building went silent except for urgent instructions being given. Paramedics arrived within minutes and transported Reggie to Waltham Hospital. Doctors worked continuously, but he passed away later that morning from a sudden heart-related medical emergency. The loss shocked the sports world. Reggie had been one of the brightest stars in professional basketball. Fans gathered outside Boston Garden, leaving flowers, jerseys, and handwritten notes. An official medical report later stated, the cause of death was sudden cardiac arrest due to an underlying heart condition. The tragedy led to major changes in professional sports. Leagues increased heart screening for athletes and improved emergency response procedures inside training facilities. Reggie's story remains one of the most sobering reminders that even the healthiest athletes can face silent medical conditions. A simple morning run, meant to be the safest part of training, became a heartbreaking moment in sports history. Track collapse of Florence Griffith Joyner. September 21, 1998, Mission Viejo, California. The morning air was calm, and the streets were quiet around a small fitness gym in Southern California. It was a normal training day for Florence Griffith Joyner, one of the most famous track and field athletes in the world. Known as FloJo, she had stunned the world years earlier with her speed and style. By 1998, she had retired from competition and was focusing on family life, public speaking, and light training to stay healthy. She wasn't racing anymore. She wasn't pushing her limits. At around 8:30 a.m., Florence began a light home workout. It wasn't a hard session. She moved between stretches, gentle jogging in place, and simple floor exercises. Her husband was home in another room. Everything felt routine. A few minutes into the workout, Florence suddenly stopped moving. She collapsed quietly onto the floor. There were no loud sounds, no warning, just silence. When her husband found her, he immediately called emergency services. Paramedics arrived quickly and attempted to revive her. She was transported to a nearby hospital, but doctors were unable to save her. She was only 38 years old. The medical examiner later determined that she passed away due to a previously unknown seizure disorder. There were no signs of external harm, no accident, only a silent medical condition that had never been diagnosed. The sports world reacted with disbelief. Tributes poured in from Olympic athletes, coaches, and fans around the world. Many described her as more than an athlete, as an inspiration to young people and especially young women. Her passing raised awareness about hidden medical conditions and led many sports organizations to encourage more thorough neurological and heart screenings for athletes, even after retirement. Even though years have passed, Florence Griffith Joyner's legacy still lives on, not only for her speed, but for the reminder that health challenges can sometimes exist quietly without visible signs. The football collapse of Marc-Vivien. June 26, 2003, Lyon, France. The stadium was full. The lights were bright. Thousands of fans watched as Cameroon faced Colombia in a FIFA Confederations Cup semi-final match. It was meant to be a night of pride and competition. Marc-Vivien Foé was 28 years old and playing as a midfielder. He had played in top European leagues and was known for his strength and calm presence on the field. That evening, he had shown no signs of distress. He had completed several sprints, made strong tackles, and seemed focused. In the 72nd minute of the match, something unexpected happened. Foé slowed down in the center of the field. No player touched him. There was no collision. He simply lost balance and collapsed to the grass. At first, some thought it was exhaustion, but within seconds, teammates began waving urgently. Medical staff rushed onto the pitch with equipment. The stadium fell silent as fans realized this was serious. Doctors worked on him immediately. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation was started on the field before he was taken by stretcher to a nearby medical area. He was later transported by ambulance to a hospital. Despite every effort, Marc-Vivien Foé could not be saved. The official medical report later confirmed that he had suffered from a previously undetected heart condition. There were no warning signs before the match. No abnormalities had been noticed in earlier screenings. His passing deeply affected the football world. Players from both teams gathered in shock. Some stood in tears. Officials described the silence in the stadium as unreal. In the years that followed, football organizations around the world introduced stricter heart testing for professional athletes. Portable defibrillators became mandatory in major competitions. Emergency response training was strengthened. Marc-Vivien Foé is remembered not only as a gifted footballer, but as a symbol of how important health monitoring is in modern sports, and how life can change in a single quiet moment on the field. Gymnastics. Accident of Elena Mukhina. July 3, 1980. Minsk, Soviet Union. The gym was quiet except for the sound of footsteps and chalked hands clapping together. The summer air was warm, and the lights above the balance beams glowed softly. Elena Mukhina was only 20 years old. She was the reigning world champion in gymnastics and was preparing for the upcoming Olympic Games. Her coaches believed she was strong enough to perform one of the hardest skills in gymnastics, the Thomas Salto, a complex move involving multiple rotations. That afternoon, the training session felt normal at first. Elena warmed up carefully, stretching, deep breaths, quiet focus. Teammates watched from the side. She climbed onto the uneven bars and rehearsed simpler routines. Around mid-session, she decided to attempt the risky move again. She swung forward, released the bar, and began rotating through the air. For a split second, her position shifted. Her timing was slightly off. Instead of landing safely, she came down awkwardly. Coaches and trainers ran to her side immediately. The gym fell silent. No one shouted. No one panicked loudly. It was a quiet kind of fear, the kind that freezes a room. Elena was taken to a hospital the same day. Doctors later confirmed that she had suffered a severe spinal injury. While she survived, she could no longer walk. Her Olympic dream ended in that moment. Years later, Elena spoke about that day with calm honesty. She said, "I only wanted to be perfect." Her story led to major safety conversations inside international gymnastics. Certain high-risk skills were reconsidered. Training methods became more careful. Coach supervision became stricter. Elena Mukhina later became an advocate for athlete safety, reminding the world that ambition should never be stronger than protection. Her story remains one of the most emotional moments in sports history, not because of shock, but because of what it taught. Fatal boxing match of Duke Koo Kim, November 13, 1982, Las Vegas, Nevada. The arena lights were bright. Cameras rolled. Thousands of fans packed the seats at Caesar's Palace. Millions more watched from home. Duke Koo Kim, a 23-year-old boxer from South Korea, stepped into the ring to challenge American champion Ray "Boom Boom" Mancini for the WBA lightweight title. This was the biggest night of his life. Before the fight, Kim had written a short message in his hotel room that would later be found by reporters. "Live or die." At the opening bell, both fighters looked strong. The first few rounds were balanced. Kim moved quickly. Mancini pressed forward. The crowd applauded every exchange. The match was intense but controlled. By the 12th round, fatigue began to show. Both boxers slowed slightly. Guards dropped. Breathing grew heavier. Kim still stood his ground, refusing to step back. He wanted to prove himself. In the 14th round, Mancini landed a powerful series of punches. Kim stumbled. He collapsed to the canvas. The referee began to count, but something was clearly wrong. Kim was helped back to his feet, but moments later he collapsed again. Medical staff rushed into the ring. Cameras stopped. The crowd went silent. Kim was taken by stretcher to a nearby hospital. Doctors worked for several hours to save him. 4 days later, Duke Koo Kim passed away due to brain trauma suffered during the fight. The boxing world changed after this. The WBC reduced championship matches from 15 rounds to 12. Medical checks became stricter. Ringside emergency equipment became mandatory. Referees were trained to stop fights sooner. Ray Mancini later said, "That night changed my life forever." Duke Koo Kim's legacy lives on as a turning point in combat sports, a moment that forced the world to choose safety over spectacle. The basketball collapse of Hank Gathers, March 4, 1990, Los Angeles, California, USA. The gym at Loyola Marymount University was packed with fans. The bleachers were full. The air felt electric. It was a West Coast Conference basketball game, and everyone expected an exciting night. Hank Gathers was 23 years old. He was one of the top college basketball players in the country. Known for his powerful dunks and fast movement, he had already drawn attention from NBA scouts. The game started normally. Hank ran the court, passed the ball, and scored early. The crowd cheered loudly each time he touched the ball. His energy seemed strong. No one noticed anything strange in the first few minutes. About 9 minutes into the first half, something changed. Hank slowed down suddenly. He bent forward slightly. Then he grabbed his chest. At first, some fans thought he was catching his breath. Then he fell forward onto the court. The ball rolled away. The referee stopped play immediately. Teammates rushed over. Coaches followed. The crowd became silent almost instantly. Medical staff ran onto the court with emergency equipment. CPR was started right there on the floor. He was placed on a stretcher and taken out of the arena. Despite emergency treatment, Hank Gathers could not be saved. Doctors later confirmed that he had suffered a sudden heart rhythm disorder. It was a condition that had affected him before, but it had never been considered immediately life-threatening. His teammate Bo Kimball was deeply affected by the loss. In the game after Hank's passing, Bo stepped to the free throw line and shot all free throws with his left hand, honoring Hank's memory. The incident changed college basketball policies. Teams increased heart screenings. Emergency response times were improved. Defibrillators became standard in athletic venues. Hank Gathers is remembered not for how he passed, but for how he played. Fearless, passionate, full of heart. Formula One accident of Ayrton Senna. May 1st, 1994, Imola, Italy. The sun was bright over the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari circuit. Thousands of fans filled the grandstands. Millions were watching live on television around the world. Ayrton Senna was 34 years old. He was already a legend in Formula One, a three-time world champion, known for his focus, speed, and deep passion for racing. The San Marino Grand Prix had been uneasy from the start. The weekend had already seen two serious incidents. Drivers talked about safety. There was tension in the air. At 2:17 p.m., the race began. Senna started from pole position. For the first few laps, everything looked controlled. He led the pack calmly, driving with precision. On lap 7, as he approached the Tamburello corner, his car suddenly left the racing line. At approximately 190 miles per hour, 305 kilometers per hour, the car failed to turn as expected and went straight into a concrete barrier. The impact was immediate. Race officials stopped the event. Medical teams reached the car within seconds. He was carefully transported by helicopter to a hospital in Bologna. Doctors worked for hours. Later that day, officials confirmed that Ayrton Senna could not be saved. The official investigation found that a steering column failure was the most likely cause. There was no sign of reckless driving. The world of motorsport changed after this. Tracks were redesigned. Safety barriers were improved. Cockpits were strengthened. Driver protection became a top priority. Ayrton Senna became more than a champion. He became a symbol of safety reform in racing. A Formula One official later said, "He changed the sport with his life and with his loss."